Hi everybody, this is Scott Sharp with Fretboard Toolbox, and I thought I was alone in thinking that the E major chord was tricky, but I have found out that I was not alone. Lots of people think it is. So I'm going to show you today a bunch of different ways to play it using a Fretboard Toolbox so you can see the notes that make up the chord and where they're found on the ukulele. Let's take a look and I'll show you how it works. Today we're going to use a ukulele C tuning, essential C tuning ebook from Fretboard Toolbox. And in the key of E major is the 1 chord. And we'll also look real quick at the key of A, where E major is the 5 chord. So that's 2 keys, E and A, where you're likely to see the E chord. So let's look at the key of E major first. And toolboxes show you which chords fit together in the key, and they show you the notes that make up the chord. So E majors on every instrument are always built out of the notes E, G sharp, and B. And then if I can see where are those E, G sharps, and B's found all over the fretboard, the chords make more sense. So let's look first at the first one I figured out, which is these 3 and then here. So 4th string, 4th fret, we got B, E, G sharp, B. And this one's kind of tough because like the way I do it is I mash this finger, my ring finger, on these 3 strings, the B, E, and G sharp, and then I use my pointer finger to hit the B. So I'm just hitting all 3 of these notes plus here. And the hard part is mashing your finger like that until you get used to it. But you could also, if you can fit all 3 fingers on there, you can get B, E, G sharp, B, like that. But however you're going to play your E major chord, you're always using E, G sharp, and B notes. Another one I've seen is this. This is G sharp, E, E, B. So it's G sharp, E, and then we're leaving this E open and then the B. And that has a cool sound because you've got these 2 E's next to each other. And then we've got, you could bar here on the 4th fret, B, E, G sharp, and then hit the 7th fret E. And that one's pretty cool, but sometimes this high E doesn't sound that cool to me. So I can go back to here. But another cool one is, what if I just skip the 1 string altogether and I mute it, and then I just play these 3 notes here in a row. Like, here's how I do it. And then I want this last note to be muted because E majors are E, G sharp, and B notes, so I don't want an A to sound out. So if I can just mute that string, then I can get this E major shape here. Okay, and then if I want to play an E7, E7s are always adding a D note. Okay, E major 7, if you've heard of that, is adding a D sharp, but E7 is adding a D. So if I want to play any of these as an E7, I just need to figure out where can I add a D note. So if I play this shape here that I'm showing you and then add this D on the 5th fret, does that make sense? And then if you can see if you know the D is the note you're adding for an E7, then if I play G sharp, D, E, B, like this, that's an E7. So E major, E7, okay, or E major, let's see, get it right, and then E7 is just adding a D note to an E chord. Let's see, there we go. Obviously I need more practice on this shape. Another one that I've seen is if you play a power chord or a 5 chord and you just play the E and B notes and skip the G sharp altogether. So anytime you play only the 1 and 5 notes, you're playing a power chord. So I could play B and E, and then skip the G sharp and leave this E open because that's part of the chord, and then I could hit this B. So that's called an E power chord. And it's got a cool droney sound too. And when you're make sure that you're not letting that A string ring out. The thing I like about this shape is I can move it real fast up and down. So then what I want to know is, where does E major fit into some chord progressions? So I can learn these chord progressions and play through them, or I could see chord progressions in the key of A, where E major is called your 5 chord, and then I can see where does the 5 chord fit into places like this. But notice the E major, whichever chord it is in the key, if it's E major, it's always E, G sharp, and B. So even in the key of A, it's still all the same notes that you're playing that are making the E major chord. So I hope that was useful. I hope that you can, for me it's really helpful to be able to see the notes that make up the chord, because then the shapes make sense. Because it's always hard for me and frustrating when people are like, you can play E here, or here, or here, or here, and like, okay, but why? And so if you know that it's E, G sharp, and B notes, and then you can see those notes laid out, it makes a world of difference. So if you are interested in checking out your own Fretboard Toolbox, you can go to the Fretboard Toolbox website, and I've got essential books for all sorts of different instruments, and they're all laid out just alike, so you can just find those notes and where they're found. So today we were using a tenor uke. I was using one with low tuning, but it works the same for the re-entrant high G tuning. And if you want to download the free key of G major pages, just click Look Inside on these essential editions. If you want a more advanced book that has all the keys, take a look at the complete edition. And if you want to know the difference between my essential and complete editions, you can compare those two right here. And if you want to see the difference between my print and ebook options, you can click right here. So again, I hope you found something useful, and I'll have lots more videos coming on lots more instruments.